Hello and welcome to 30 Days of Hoya. Today we will start off with hoyacaudata. In front of me here you can see the cultivar, which is hoyacaudata silver. Not so much in the new growth, but in the old growth you can see there is a bit of that silver in the leaf, especially here. Hoyacaudata also has several cultivars that you can choose from. There is hoyacaudata with green leaves, big green leaf, hoyacaudata silver, hoyacaudata Sumatra. So there are plenty of them that you can choose from. Now, hoyacaudata is native to Southeast Asia, like most of your Hoyas. So this one is native to Malaysia and to Thailand. In terms of temperature, this isn't as hardy as, for example, your Hoya carnosa or Hoya bella. So this will require 15 degrees or even 20 degrees of Celsius during the winter. So somewhere between 60 or 70 degrees of Fahrenheit. I would keep this in a temperature range that is closer to that 70 degrees of Fahrenheit. I would not go too low for this Hoya, but I did find information that it can withstand even 60 degrees of Fahrenheit. What I noticed for this Hoya is that the higher the temperature, the more growth you will see. It's a fairly slow grower. I had this for maybe 9 or 10 months, so all of this growth here is new. So maybe that's not terrible. Unfortunately, you can see that this Hoya here, it has a very, very red leaf. Now, some may find this attractive. I'm not quite sure I would call it like that. I like this growth here down below more. You can see on this leaf here, it is more similar to the growth below. Now, what happened with this Hoya, it was too close to my LED light. So this is a Hoya that would like bright indirect light, but if you put it in too much light, you will see that the new growth, the new leaves will blush up like that. It is fine if you want your caudata to look like that. I prefer just the normal growth like this one here on the bottom. So I did turn it around a bit, and this growth here, this leaf, has been away from the light. And what I noticed is that it is larger, and general appearance of the leaf is more normal, I would say. In terms of watering, again, this Hoya seems to like a bit more water. That doesn't mean to, of course, just suffocate it with water. I water it every 6 to 7 days in my conditions, which is 24 degrees of Celsius and then about 60% of humidity. You can see more of the mix here. So again, it is a very light and airy mix that consists mostly from bark, perlite, and then you can see leca. There is also ceramis in this one, and just a bit of cocoa peat and general potting soil. I do have another cultivar, and it is hoyacaudata with big green leaves. Now this one has a lot of new growth going for it. Actually, this one has been in a recovery mode. When I was rooting it, it did lose all the leaves, so it was just one stick without leaves. But it turns out it is a very hardy Hoya, and you can just see the similarity in leaves between this one and the previous one. This one is grown in semi-hydro, and it's doing quite well. Again, this is one of my caudatas that is actively growing, so the silver one isn't growing so much at the moment, but this one has put out this long vine, and you can see even here there is just a tiny leaf that is about to develop, but I will not touch it because you should not really touch the new growth on your Hoyas. Once again, in terms of fertilizer, I use Orchid Focus Grow fertilizer for this Hoya. I fertilize it about once a week. And I continue to fertilize it once a week during the winter, but I just double down on the dose of the fertilizer, which is, again, a very gentle fertilizer to start with. I also use sometimes Algamic for this Hoya. Or actually, for all of my Hoyas, I use Algamic, and I did notice that it does really well for them. In terms of humidity, I do think this one would prefer more of a moderate humidity, so 50 to 60 degrees of humidity. And then temperature, I've been growing this around 22 to 24 degrees of Celsius, and it has done quite nicely with that temperature. In terms of recommendation, I can recommend this one to a beginner. It's not very difficult. You just have to be very careful. It does have very thin vine, So it is sensitive to overwatering, but again, if you underwater it, it will not grow that well for you. So you just have to find that happy spot between overwatering and underwatering with this Hoya. And then if you have a warm place to keep it in throughout the winter, I think this Hoya will do well in your home. In terms of availability, you cannot expect to find this Hoya in your local garden center. If you have a specialized Hoya nursery or an orchid nursery even, you might be able to find it there, but just your regular garden center will not have this Hoya. You can also find it with many of the Hoya collectors, whether it be from North America, from Thailand, from Russia, from Sweden. There are many places, or Germany, there are many places really where you can get this Hoya, but again, I would venture out to some of the collectors to get this one. But it is quite worth it. It's not a very difficult Hoya to grow, and the foliage is just beautiful on this Hoya. That would be all for our Hoya caudata.